guys, welcome to my channel. Tiffany here of Tiffany Gordon Cosplay, and if you are new, my channel is all about cosplays and tutorials on how to help you build your own version of whatever prop and weapon that I've made. And on this one, I'm going to be going over how I made the gauntlets for my Gundam cosplay. And I'd love to have you as part of my cosplay community, so remember to subscribe to the channel and we can begin. And here is everything that I used to make these gauntlets. And I'll have links to everything in the description, as well as the pattern for these gauntlets are available on my website, www.tiffanygordoncosplay.com. Again, link in the description. The first part that we're going to talk about is part E. And for this, you're going to want to trace the entire piece onto 10mm EVA foam, as well as draw all the little guidelines onto your piece. Once that's done, you're going to want to get your heat gun and heat treat the foam before you cut it out using a box cutter. Side note, you'll want to do this before cutting out all of your pieces throughout this build. Next, with a very sharp X-Acto knife, you're going to want to follow those lines that you drew on your foam at a 45-degree angle, going downward, making sure not to pierce all the way through your foam. You'll then rotate the piece 180 degrees and then cut down that line again. This will leave a triangle-like shape with the foam that will then easily be able to remove. By doing this, you'll be able to bend your foam around and have nice and clean edges. Side note, you will want to either cut at a 45 the end parts that will connect or sand them. And for me, I like to sand them because it's easier. But once that's done, then you're gonna get contact cement glue and apply the glue to all of these channels. Wait for it to fully dry and then slowly bend your piece into shape. After this step, I ended up cutting off a lot of the front part just because I have really small hands, but you'll want to do a test fit and put it on and see how much you want to extend to your fingertips and then cut it to the length. And then round all of your edges with a sanding drum. You'll repeat all these same steps for part D next, then put it on the foam and trace where it's going to lay, and then use contact cement glue onto both pieces, let it fully dry, and then attach the two pieces together. Next is part C. And for part C, we're going to be cutting out the larger rectangular-like shape out of 6mm EVA foam, doing the same cutting channel down the center that we did earlier. And then for the smaller triangle-like shape, you're gonna cut this part out of 2mm EVA foam, and then attach the triangle to the front part. Then apply glue and attach these parts together. The next piece is letter B, and we're gonna be cutting this one out of 10mm EVA foam. Again, remember your channel down the center and attach it on top once you are done. The last piece we're gonna talk about is letter A, and for this one, I kind of forgot to film a little bit, but it's gonna be out of 10mm EVA foam. And then for any of the detail pieces that are gonna be on this, you're going to want to get an X-Acto knife and lightly pierce through the EVA foam, only a little bit down. Once that's done, you can get a heat gun and heat treat that one part. It's going to open up that channel and make it so you can visibly see the line in the channel a lot more. It's a cool trick. And then attach it on top. And that should complete all of your EVA foam parts of your gauntlets. Now to add color, and we are actually not gonna be painting these gauntlets. We're gonna be covering it in stretch fabric vinyl, which I got at Spandex House. And it is a little bit pricey, be aware, and you will want to get more than what you think you will need, but I use the white, the blue, and the red for the gauntlets. And just a heads up, if you've never done this process, it goes through a ton of glue, so you're gonna need to buy a lot more contact cement glue than you normally would use for any of your projects, as well as because you're using contact cement glue and the extreme amount that you're going to be using, you need to have proper ventilation. So having windows open, preferably invest in some vent unit, as well as you have to wear a respirator and no pets in the room. Be safe. And for starting off these pieces, you're going to want to cut out a piece of fabric that is a little bit larger than what you're going to need to cover the surface area. For this part, we're going to be attaching the red first. And after you cut out this fabric, you're going to want to lay it where the right side is facing down, and I highly recommend using the Cricut cutting mats because they have a sticky surface that will help keep your fabric flat. And then you're going to apply contact cement glue onto the surface. You do not need to use the contact cement glue all the way to the edges, so don't be afraid. Your Cricut mats will not be damaged, hopefully. And after that, wait for your glue to dry and then do a second coat onto the fabric. You will also need to do 2 coats of glue onto your EVA foam as well, but only apply it to where this one piece of fabric is going to go. Then get your center of the fabric, lay it on the spine, and with a leather burnisher, you're going to slowly rub from the bottom upwards, making sure there is no air bubbles, and then rotate your piece, and you're gonna go from the spine all the way towards the right, so that way it will fully cover one side and then repeat on the opposite side, slowly pushing all of your fabric down as you go. If there's any parts that are having a little bit of trouble with you reaching it, you can use a flat clay working tool to get into that and make nice sharp creases. Then with some scissors and some X-Acto knives, cut around all of your edges so that way all of your scraps are gone. Then for the next section, and this is going to be the front part that is white, applying the contact cement glue only to the outer side of the foam. Once that's done, you're going to also repeat the 2 coats of glue onto the white fabric. And for this piece, I started on the top, laying the piece down, using the leather burnisher and slowly pushing all of the fabric flat all the way around till it came together at one of the seams. And once again, trimmed with an X-Acto knife and scissors. Side note, your X-Acto knife needs to be extremely sharp to cut all of your fabric. Then it's time to move on to the blue sections. And for this, we're gonna kind of be breaking it down into smaller sections. First the triangle and then the bottom part of the gauntlets. And then 2 larger sections of the side, which are kind of going to sandwich the piece together in the end, covering the rest of our blue areas. And for larger areas, it is a little bit harder to cover, so you will want to start at one end, slowly working your way to the other. And to avoid it kind of touching itself, you can always put a pair of pliers or a pencil underneath the fabric, so that way it doesn't stick to itself. And then when you get to that part, just remove it and you can keep slowly working your way down, smoothing everything as you go. And for getting into any of the crevices again, use the tip of your wood burnisher first to kind of force it into there, and then with your flat clay working tool, push it the rest of the way, so that way you can have those nice sharp edges. Then slowly start to trim the pieces using your X-Acto knife, followed by scissors. And don't worry, if you're having a little bit of foam show after you are done trimming, you can always go back with some airbrush paint to hand paint those touch-up areas, and you won't notice it. And then the last section is the back part, which is for white. Again, contact cement glue, wait for it to dry after the 2 coats, and then slowly cover it. And I also like to do the inside of the piece, even though it's not gonna be seen as much, it will be seen a tiny bit. And for this, I just cut out long rectangular strips and did 2 sides at a time that were opposite, doing the contact cement glue. Once they were done and the fabric was attached, then I did the other 2 blank sides and trimmed everything. Then for some touch-ups on all of the edges, if any of your fabric is a little bit sharp, you can go and trim it a tiny bit more, and you can also get a heat gun and on low heat, kind of heat up where the fabric is a little bit stiff, and then while it is still slightly hot, get your flat clay working tool and just kind of rub it back and forth to smooth it, so that way it will lay flat. And you can do this on all of your seams. Just be careful not to apply too much heat so you don't burn your fabric. Then the last step to do is any of your touch-up paint, as well as, because this is an anime, it's a Gundam, I wanted to give it that anime feeling by adding tons of black lines around everything, and this just makes all of your pieces pop so much more and feel more manga anime-like. And no, you can't use Sharpies unfortunately because it just rubs off, so you will need to use airbrush paint, and I just did the black by hand. And the gauntlets are actually pretty large just because they're Gundam stuff and they don't just sit on your arms. So for me, how I attached it to myself is I actually did Velcro, non-adhesive back, and I applied contact cement glue to both the inside of the gauntlet and the back of my Velcro, and once it was dry, attached the 2 pieces together, and this would actually attach to my gloves, which I had sewn on a piece of Velcro, and that would complete my gauntlets for my Gundam cosplay. And that, guys, is how I made the gauntlets for my Gundam cosplay. I hope you found this video helpful for making your very own, and if so, I'd love to hear from you, so let me know in the comments. And a big thank you to all of my sponsors here on YouTube, as well as all of those members, specifically those legendary members who help financially support me so I can continue to do this as my full-time job. And I'd love to have you as part of my community. So remember to subscribe so you can stay up to date with all of my cosplay tutorials, and I will see you for our next one. Much love, guys!